God. Good evening, I hope everyone's doing well. Sorry, my eyes are watering a little bit. This video is basically going to be a follow-up from the last video that I did on Tommy Robinson not being allowed to see Paul Thorpe anymore. So it turns out there were some other things that I didn't mention in the last video that have come to my attention. First and foremost, of course, is the fact that apparently, if this is true, Tommy Robinson's own son has had his number blocked so he can't contact his father. Now, if this is truly the case, then this is a sickening violation of his human rights. Surely, if no one else, he should be able to see his family. Though I suspect, more than anything, they'll use the same excuse. He'll post something on social media. And I'll just remind Nicola the Monster Marfleet that Tommy Robinson, as a civil prisoner, can have as many visits as he wishes, within reason. And I would think that people wanting to know whether or not Tommy Robinson is okay, I think that's definitely within reason, don't you think? Or are you still that terrified and shitting your knickers that you're worried somebody's going to post something on Facebook or Twitter or YouTube? Which also begs a much darker question, a much more sinister question. Is Tommy okay? Is Tommy alive? Is this what they're potentially hiding from us? Because I can tell you right now, Marfleet, if anything has happened to Tommy Robinson, there will be hell to pay. There will be all-out anarchy. And I don't want that. But the cold, bitter truth is, there are so many people out there who are incensed with Tommy Robinson, who are very big supporters or admirers of Tommy Robinson. They understand the plight he is going through. And they understand that this man means more to the movement than any other person. And it also means, because they have a deep-seated investment into Tommy Robinson, they know full well that if anything happens to him, there may not be much that would control them as far as letting all hell break loose is concerned. And I do think a substantial number of people will literally go to war, quite frankly. And if that does happen, Keir the Traitor Starmer and Nicola Nicola the Monster of Marfleet, they will both be directly responsible for that uprising. And I cannot stress enough, I do not want it. Because I know there was some NPC that came in on a newly created account, no less, which was basically a load of random numbers and letters, mostly repeated, and they were saying I'm promoting violence. No, I fucking ain't. So let's put that one to bed right fucking now. I have never called for violence. I have never called for a violent revolution, and I have never called for an overthrowing of the government. I believe it might happen. I've said that it is likely it will happen, but I've never called for it. There is a big difference. Likewise, there was someone who came in who was a little more polite, I'll admit, who said that I need to be more calm and more polite with these monsters, these scumbags that are holding Tommy Robinson in solitary confinement for way longer than is humanly legal, and they are letting off nonces and predators and murderers. Some of these people don't even go to jail. But you want me to be more kind to them? Yeah, you can fuck off right now. Any normal human being is going to be quite rightly pissed off with the way this government has been treating us, the way that Nicola Marfleet has been treating Tommy Robinson, and any of these scumbags who are currently out of jail, who are basically not back in jail. So please forgive me if I'm not calm and polite with these wankers, quite frankly. I think a lot of us have every right to be angry at the treachery, the deceit, and the dishonesty that is going on as far as Tommy Robinson is concerned. And I mentioned several times that we should put pressure on Nicola the Monster Marfleet of Woodhill Prison. I never called for her to be attacked. I did say at one point, if there's an uprising, who are the first people do you think these people are going to target? And I did say she would be one of the very first, but I never called for the violence. Let that be absolutely clear. I want this done peacefully, by the book, over the right channels. And I think somebody stole the TV remote. I'll have to ask that guy over there to give it back. Anyway, there's the reason why we need to go through the right channels. Because you see, a lot of the left-wing NPCs, they like to use the moral high ground. How are they supposed to do that if we're on it? When we're doing everything the right way, how are they supposed to say, well, you see, they're far right, they're racist, they're thugs, that lot, blah, blah, blah. How do you think these people are going to be able to discredit us when we have basically gone 2 steps ahead of them? But before we go any further into the whole prison debacle with Tommy Robinson, I want to go back to, very briefly, what's it called? The protest. Sorry, the demonstration. Legalese and all that. So this demonstration that took place, basically, there was obviously a peaceful demonstration that day, that nothing really went wrong. 100,000 at least, I'd say, of people up there peacefully, on their best behaviour, having a day of celebration, while there was about as much celebration over on the other side as at a funeral. Because that's the thing with hate not hope and stand up to racism that doesn't exist. They like to think they're taking the moral high ground. But how are they supposed to do that when we're not being racist? How are they supposed to say, oh, that lot over there, they're far right and racist, when we've got people from all walks of life? We've got people from all sorts of situations. Hell, there was even someone who survived a Hamas attack who was on stage first. There was a Muslim lady who spoke out at that event. There was a black man that spoke out at that event. There were people from Wales, there were people from Ireland, there were people from America, and obviously people from here, all giving their thoughts on the current situation. But of course the mainstream media won't tell you this. You know the drill, folks, because say it with me, it doesn't suit the narrative. Meanwhile, over in the other protest, all they were doing was bitching and complaining, and they were mostly white. You'd be lucky if you saw many black people or Muslim people in there. Here's the thing as well, they're all paid to be up there. We're not. We're doing this out of our own pocket. Even in my case, when I don't have much in the way of resources to do it, quite frankly. Because there is something that runs within us that is thicker than blood or gold. It's called patriotism and love for your country. And what we're seeing with these political prisoners, and of course Tommy Robinson, is a blatant abuse of human rights. And I'll tell you this much free of charge. I guarantee you, if this was the case of, for example, a black person who was being mistreated in prison, or a Muslim that was in prison and being treated to 3 months of non-stop solitary confinement, human rights lawyers would be all over this, just like that. But because it's Tommy Robinson, dead silence. Where are the human rights lawyers? Where are the human rights lawyers fighting for this man's human rights when he is literally languishing in solitary confinement, being abused by our government and malnourished as well? Not just two-tier policing, not just two-tier justice, not just two-tier governments, but it seems two-tier lawyering as well. So yeah, forgive me if I'm not calm and polite to all those wankers on the left wing, or the people who haven't got the balls, whether up here or down there, or in my case both, to be able to come out and say, you know what, what's happening with Tommy Robinson is fundamentally wrong. I'm not sitting here saying you have to lick Tommy's boots or kiss his ass. I'm not sitting here saying that you have to admire Tommy Robinson. I'm not even sitting here saying you should stroke number one, share a seat with Tommy Robinson. But what I am saying is that you need to recognise that every person deserves those same human rights as long as they are not breaching major laws such as murder, rape, noncery and all that shit. And what is Tommy Robinson in prison for, to remind everyone? He's in prison for telling the truth about a so-called Syrian refugee. A boy who was a compulsive liar, beat a girl in the back with a hockey stick, stabbed someone in the hand with a compass, knocked the boy unconscious, and was just generally a vile piece of shit. Now, Tommy may be under conditions. Hey, buddy! Same guy again. But here's the thing. He may not be under the same conditions of reporting this stuff and not being able to, but I tell you who can. I can. There's no reporting restrictions on me. So the court can take one of these and swivel, quite frankly. And I am going to talk about it. You know why? Because we will not be silenced. But what I find particularly funny is how on that dreadfully censorship-happy site known as MSN, there was one guy who was saying, oh, your fascistic leader, hero, Tommy Robinson, and telling us all of his bloody crimes like usual brainwashed, woke NPCs do. But then when I point out facts, he just resorts to throwing name tags. Because that's the thing, the left wing are only good at one thing. Well, I suppose they are good at flinging shit as well. Anyway, there's only one thing they are good at. And that is projection, and maybe a second thing, deflection. But I want to see some human rights lawyers comment on this. I want to see human rights lawyers investigate Tommy Robinson's case, because it is blatantly obvious that there is an abuse of power, an abuse of his rights, and a mental, physical and psychological torture of Tommy Robinson, which the mainstream media, of course, is not going to tell you. And I was as serious as a heart attack when I said that we need to get massive numbers outside Woodhill prison. We need to put Woodhill prison under the same bloody pressure that we put Belmarsh under, quite frankly. We need Nicola Monster Marfleet to understand just how pissed off we are with this treacherous bullshit in the prison. Because what I find funny is there are some people who are given 10 times their allowance on their birthday week to do whatever. Buy food, buy cigarettes, do whatever. I bet Tommy Robinson hasn't had that. I can't remember off the top of my head when his birthday is, but what I do know is I suspect they will just completely ignore any requests from Tommy Robinson. Hell, they've already stroke number two. They've already basically ignored Tommy's requests for a mental health team when he's worried about his mental well-being. Hell, he's already had one and has basically said that he is concerned about what another 9 months of this or another 3 months of this shit will do, or 6 months. This kind of thing would break almost anyone. Like, literally, it is a matter of, you could stick anybody in a white room for a certain period of time. You could stick them in there for 3 months, and then they don't even want to open their fucking eyes again. You know why? Because they're worried they'll see white. There's a reason it's called the white torture, although that isn't what the prison is doing, let me be clear. But what I am saying is that because of the constant abuse that he's getting by basically being locked in solitary confinement, I wouldn't be surprised if he develops claustrophobia. I wouldn't be surprised if there is some severe PTSD he suffers from this shit. Because he has been diagnosed, I believe, with PTSD. He's already had to serve another sentence in, I believe it was HMP Onley, where he had to be locked in a cage away from the Muslims of the, at the time, 31% Muslim populated prison, who basically, he was worried that they were poisoning his food. And I can't blame him, since he wasn't able to see the food being prepared in front of him. The way I look at this, what's happened to Tommy is nothing short of abhorrent. Thank you. Now, I don't know if I'm able to organise a protest myself, because I don't know the first thing of stroke number 3, organising a protest. But as long as it's not like too economically taxing, I may be able to do something about it. No promises. I'm not going to promise I'll do one right now, because obviously I've got quite a busy time ahead. That being said, I have got next week off, so there is that. But I think there does need to be an immense amount of pressure that needs to be put on the prison governor, and of course Keir the traitor Starmer, because I will admit one thing that one of these people who came and basically had their dig at me had said, and that is, for all you know, these orders could have come from the government. Well, what did I say in my last video? I said, I don't care if these orders come from the bloody government. So I, bare minimum, had a rough idea it was probably them. So you can't exactly say I'm not completely in the know. Funny thing is, a lot of these people are saying that I need to get my facts straight before I spew stroke number 4, before I spew shit and spew strokes at a rate of a stroke a minute. But I already knew that Tommy Robinson is allowed unlimited visits to him within reason. Obviously, he can't have people over if he knows they're trying to smuggle in drugs, for example. But my point is, he has every right to his visitation, and the prison governor is denying him that, which she has no right to do. He is a civil prisoner, not a criminal prisoner. There was somebody who said he's only allowed like 2 or 3 visits a month. That is not true. If you're a civil prisoner, which Tommy Robinson is, because contempt of court is a civil offence, you are allowed as many visits as you like within reason. However, we all know full well why they're doing this. We all know full well why they're putting him in solitary confinement for longer than 2 weeks at a time. We know why they are denying Tommy Robinson his visits. It's to torture the poor lad. They are doing this to break him. They are doing this to break him mentally, to break him physically, and to break him psychologically. Of course, you will never hear Nicola Monster Marfleet say that, because obviously, how damaging to her career would that be? But she'll have to tell the truth sooner or later, because we'll drag her in front of the courts if necessary, because she has unequivocally breached human rights laws. She has no right to deny Tommy Robinson his visitation. She has no right to make him serve more than 2 weeks at a time in solitary confinement. He should, bare minimum, be given a larger cell so that he can at least have a wander around, I don't know, play with some dumbbells or something, like get his muscles up, become a fucking Chad, and then he'll be known as Chad Robinson. Anyway, he needs to be allowed to roam a bit more freely than being locked in a fucking box which is barely big enough to hold you in. But ironically, these people were telling me I need to get my facts straight. Hot Kettle Black springs to mind. But I digress. The bottom line in all of this is that we do have the capacity to have thousands of people turn up at Woodhill prison, just like that. And that should scare Nicola, quite frankly, because she knows full damn well that we did this at Belmarsh, and we put so much pressure on them, they had to concede and give Tommy better rights. But then as soon as they did that, that's when they said move him to Woodhill so he wouldn't get that shit. So they're defying the will of the people. How much longer do you think this is going to last? Why do you think I have been saying things like, if Keir the traitor Starmer doesn't resign by the 1st of March, I suspect there'll be a revolution? It is exactly because of shit like this. How they will use every dirty, unscrupulous tactic in the book to try and break that man, to try and screw over the indigenous people. Hell, Angela Rayner right now is trying to bring in blasphemy laws as far as Islam is concerned. That should scare you, because last time I checked, this is a Judeo-Christian country, and Rayner had better watch herself, because if she tries to push this through, there will be enormous pushback from the British people. There will be pushback so great that it will shake the government to its core. Like this bloody bus is shaking when I'm holding this on the bloody headrest of the chair. They need to understand they cannot keep pissing the British public off. They have to understand this is basically like another Pompeii. This is another volcano that's about to go off. And that lava isn't going to stop at just one city or one town or one little hamlet or at the slightest drop of water. No. When a volcano goes off, the lava's indiscriminate and it will destroy everything in its path. Whether it be organic, synthetic, you name it, it'll do it. Keir the traitor Starmer better watch himself as well. His government are not just on thin ice, they're pretty much right in front of the volcano, quite frankly. And even if by some slight small chance they're able to survive that volcano, do you think they're going to survive the fallout? Do you think they're actually going to be able to avoid the dense ash and what have you? Do you think they're going to be able to survive any of it? I personally don't. Nicola Marfleet, addressing you directly. If I am able to organise this protest, if it is within my capacity to do so, if I have the means to do so, and I know 100% for sure there will be a lot of people coming along to it, I might just organise a protest myself. Outside your prison. We will surround the prison in a ring of humans. We will surround every fucking inch of that prison. And we'll see how you like being in your own little solitary confinement. No one out, no one in. The choice is yours. But the way I see it, you do not want to fuck with the British people. Because I'll tell you one thing. If you try to bite the British bulldog, you better not be surprised if the British bulldog sinks its teeth into the prison's throat.